What's up, guys? Rick here with your betting and one and done preview for this week's Fortinet Championship, the brand new start to the PGA Tour season. Plenty of content coming this week in the form of not only this video, not only the DFS video that is already out, but 3 different live chats this week. The Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time live chat is all things Fortinet. Whatever you want to talk about, ownership, projections, matchups, outrights, that time is yours. 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday is the Jock Market Power Hour. That is stock market DFS, where there is lots of money to be made, and it's a different mindset, right? There's a lot more ways that you can win in stock market DFS, where you can actually buy and sell shares of real golfers and other athletes for that matter. And then there is going to be a cut sweat show this week because there is a cut. That's a data-driven approach to how many lineups are going to have 6 of 6, 5 of 6, maybe an opportunity to find some golfers to bet on Friday afternoon. So that is going to be Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Tentatively, I will try to time it for the sweatiest of cuts and all that good stuff. So stay tuned for the exact time on Friday. Make sure you're subscribed so that you do get a notification when I go live. But for now, let's jump into the Fortinet Championship. This is the tournament predictor tool on RickRunGood.com. This is a model that runs a simulation 1,000 times for the results of this event, and then it shows them to you, and then it compares it to odds at 5 different sports books to see if there is any value. And what we have to discuss right out of the gate is the field. It's Jon Rahm, a huge storyline at the top. It is the graduates from the Korn Ferry Tour coming up and now making their debut for the first time. Most of them are. That is another storyline. Let's start with the Jon Rahm storyline. He won my simulation 13.5% of the time. Let's be clear. That's a massive number. That is likely the largest number in a full field cut event that I've had since running these. I don't think that's incorrect to say. We've seen higher numbers for like the Tour Championship, or maybe something rivaling this for a smaller field event with no cut. But Jon Rahm winning 13.5% of the time, twice as likely as his next closest golfer, and it's still not enough to bet him. You know, this is where I kind of separate. Are you a recreational bettor? And I'm very much a recreational bettor, but I keep track of everything, right? I keep track of my units, for example, and my ROI and all that good stuff. If you just want someone to be live on Sunday, or the most likely person to sweat 4 days after the tournament starts, just bet Jon Rahm. You're not worried about whether it's 3-1, 4.5-1. FanDuel actually has him at 4.9-1. You're not worried about any of that. You're just looking for a guy who's the most likely to win the golf tournament, like Jon Rahm is. If you're doing this week in, week out, if you're tracking, if you're caring about points here and points there, Jon Rahm is unbettable, people. I mean, especially at some of these, like DraftKings has him at 3-1. 3-1. That implies he's going to win this golf tournament a third of the time. 54 golfers. One of them is going to win it a third of the time. Jon Rahm is very good. He is head and shoulders above the rest of this field. It's not even remotely close. But to win a golf tournament a third of the time is, I mean, that's Tiger wasn't even doing that, right? Tiger's peak, he was winning 25% of them. And he was a larger gap between him and the rest of the field than Jon Rahm is and the rest of this field. So it's not bettable if you're following along. The other thing to note is, because Jon Rahm is in this field, what I really think you need to do is considering an each way bet. Now, for those of you who are in America, this is not as common here, but books overseas generally will allow you like an each way. So you would bet an outright winner with a quote an each way. And it's usually top 5, sometimes top 6. If you have a really good book, it's top 8. And essentially what it does is it splits your bet. If you're betting $100, 50 of it goes on to the outright number and 50 of it goes on to the top 5 number. Well, you could make this each way bet yourself, right? And I often do this. I take half of the stake that I want to bet on a guy, bet half of it to win, and bet half on the top 5 number. Because the problem is you might get a really good ceiling performance from anyone else in this field. Call it Harold Varner III. Call it Sebastian Munoz. You might finally get that ceiling week, and you might run into Jon Rahm. Right? He's kind of the guy playing defense at the top of the board. You might just run into a Jon Rahm victory. So I highly encourage, if you have the option to do it each way, or if you want to make it yourself, I believe this week more than most, it is critically important to do that, because you might just run into the buzzsaw that is Jon Rahm. Now, the next guy on my simulation results, maybe only a little bit surprising, is Kevin Na. I have him winning this 7.5% of the time, which means if you're getting him at DraftKings, 16-1, he's a value there. He's a much better value at PointsBet, even bigger value at FanDuel, Caesars, and BetMGM. And if you're not paying attention, these books are giving away literally thousands of dollars. Caesars is giving away $5,000 in free bets. Go to RickRunGood.com/bets. See what the offer is in your state. But Kevin Na, a value across the board. I am not a big Kevin Na fan generally, and we can pull up his golfer profile here. The reason for that is he is, for me, much too reliant on his short game. That's the way he gets it done, which is usually unsustainable. The good news for Na is he's absolutely on a roll, right? 4 top 8 finishes in his last 6 starts, 6 consecutive top 25s. He actually tied with Jon Rahm at the Tour Championship for the net strokes, right? Like if you just get rid of the starting strokes for the week, it would have been Rahm and Kevin Na atop the leaderboard at Eastlake. However, despite not being kind of a long-term lover of Kevin Na, this is a really good spot for him. You know, it's a par 72. It's under 7,200 yards. This is a short course. This is a course at Silverado, the North Course, that is more about playing out of the fairway, and it's more about angles, and then it turns into a wedge fest. That's essentially what happens here. Well, Kevin Na, very accurate off the tee, 35th on tour. He's not very long, 170th. That's okay. That's not going to kill him here. Be in the right side of the fairway, be in the fairway in general, and you're going to have an opportunity to kind of dial in some of these wedges, which is an area he's generally pretty good at. 100 to 125 yards, he's 38th. Same ranking from 50 to 125. So those are your kind of your wedge numbers that you're going to see a lot of this week. And then while his strokes gained putting numbers for last season were slightly better than average, you can see how just scorching hot he can get, right? And especially towards the end of the season, that's exactly what he did. So not being a huge fan of Kevin Na, this feels like the perfect time to run him out. I have bet him for this week. I have him winning my sim 7.5% of the time. I think it's a good value. I think Na is certainly the route to go. Outside of that, HV3 surprisingly won 6.6% of my simulations, making him a value across the board. He's 40-1. Will Zalatoris and Webb Simpson round out the top 5 there. Then you get into some names like Cameron Tringale, Charlie Hoffman, Hideki Matsuyama, and Sebastian Munoz. The way that I will probably construct my card this week is with Na, and then just a lot of little bullets, 50-1 and deeper, 100-1 and deeper. This is an event. There's generally, outside of Rahm coming here and spoiling the party, this is kind of a chaos event. You know, think about it like we just had the first week of the NFL season. After months and months of people talking about how good these NFL teams are going to be, week 1 is generally the chaos week. We don't know what players are. We don't know what teams are. That's where you see the most upsets. And it's kind of the same in golf too, because 1, we get the influx of brand new graduates who we've never really seen compete for a long time on the PGA Tour. And some of them have never played on the PGA Tour. And then you also get some guys who have not played in a while. Will Zalatoris, what's the state of his game? We haven't seen him play since Wyndham. It's been a month. A lot of these guys have had multiple weeks off. So guys that were in the grind at the end of last season, maybe struggling in one area, have had time to figure it out a little bit. So to me, this is much more of a chaos week. So that's the way I'm going to treat my betting card. As I kind of scroll through a couple of interesting options here, Mito Pereira, if you've been following along since last season, I just love this kid. I showed the ball striking numbers in the DFS preview. He is in his very, very short PGA Tour career, which is like 24 rounds. He is a ball striker of the likes of, Justin Thomas, Corey Connors, Bryson DeChambeau, like that level. Now it's going to take time, right? He's going to have to win on the PGA Tour, but he was a prolific winner on the Korn Ferry. I love the idea that he can get into the winner's circle. Someone like a Pat Perez, notice what's happening here with Pat Perez. So 60-1 at DraftKings, 66 at BetMGM, 70 at PointsBet, 95-1 at FanDuel. And what is really noteworthy about that, and we saw the same thing with Cam Champ when he won the 3M Open. Remember, his odds were anywhere from 70-1 to 135-1, maybe even 150-1 in some places. And that is generally a sign of books not knowing what to do on a specific golfer. They just don't know what to do. When there is a big range like this, it is usually in our benefit. And Pat Perez is someone, again, not generally a huge fan of Pat Perez. I think he's a bit reliant, again, on the short game. But he was closing, look at that. That was a Freudian slip. I clicked Mito's name instead of Pat Perez's name. The closing stretch for Perez, where you went, T11 at the 3M, 30th at the Barracuda, T16 at the Northern Trust. He sprinkled in 2 more top 15 finishes and a couple of starts before that. Like this was a really good stretch. Pat Perez, when healthy, can make a lot of birdies, which is kind of what you're looking for out of this event. I don't mind that one at all. But going a lot further down the board here, there's a couple of names. I wouldn't mind like a top 5, top 10 situation on Kiradot Aphibarnrat, who is, playing well, came off the BMW Championship over in Europe, played well there. Now I believe he got his card through the KFT finals for this season. He's kind of a high upside guy. I still think the number on Lee Biota is wrong. 150-1 at Caesars. Again, probably need to look at the top 10 number here. Lee Biota, and I kind of argued this on the DFS preview. Like, what version are we going to get? If we get the top 10 version, then he's grossly mispriced. If we get kind of the last 2 starts version, you're not risking all that much at 150-1. And even if you get his top 10 number, call it 15-1, I don't know, 10-1, whatever it's going to end up being, I still think it's worth a flyer, because there was a stretch of golf last summer where he was arguably one of the better players on the PGA Tour. I would also consider small bets on Michael Thompson and Hudson Swafford. Again, these are I'm trying to go very far down the list here. I'm looking for different options. Swafford has been, we were all over Swafford and successfully at the end of last season. Now, he did not make it to the Tour Championship, but he played great at the Wyndham, the Northern Trust, the BMW Championship. If he can continue this kind of great ball striking in his last 3 events, where he gained basically 13 strokes on approach, marry it a little bit with the putter, which we know is not, I don't expect him to gain 6 strokes putting again, but if he can gain 2, right? Be a 0. Like, he strikes it well enough as long as he doesn't give it all away around the greens, which is really one of his weaknesses. But for me, that number is much too long on Hudson Swafford. And then Michael Thompson just won the 3M. What would that have been? 2020 3M, well-rounded. Now we're in the swing season. He's just being priced amongst guys that we have no idea what they are and are likely to turn out to be not great players on the PGA Tour. So I'm willing to take a couple flyers on some of the more established guys that we know and generally have a pretty good beat on. Hey guys, quick break. You're probably always hearing me talk about Jock Market. If you don't know what Jock Market is, it's stock market DFS. It is an app that allows you to use real cash to buy and sell shares of athletes. I like it for the golfers throughout the course of the actual tournament. So Wednesday night is the IPO. That's why we have the Jock Market Power Hour at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday evenings on the Rick Run Good YouTube channel, because that's when you're bidding on shares of golf. offers. And if you win those bids, you get those shares. And you can hold on to them until Sunday, or you can sell them literally at any point as those prices go up and down. It really fills the need or the void that I have as the tournament is being played in terms of a little bit of action. If you use the code RICK, you can get up to a $50 deposit bonus, and I will be forever indebted to you. So make sure to download Jock Market in the Apple Store or get it on Google Play to join in on the fun. All right, let's look at some tournament matchups here. This is the head-to-head matchup tool on RickRunGood.com. You can choose any time frame, you can choose any two golfers, and you can see the likelihood that one of them beats the other in a 4-round matchup. This one caught my attention right away. Webb Simpson, who did not have a particularly good year last season, fought both COVID and a neck injury versus Kevin Na. If we go since the start of 2020, Simpson wins this 65% of the time. If we go since the start of 2021, still Simpson winning at 65% of the time. If we go since, let's say since June, let's get a little bit of a smaller sample size. Kevin Na becomes the favorite, 56% of the time, minus 130. He is even money, plus 100 to Webb Simpson's minus 125 over at Caesars. This, to me, I don't think is a clear bet in either direction, although I know a lot of you, some of you prefer longer-term results, some of you prefer shorter-term results. If you like the short-term aspect of it, then you have to bet Kevin Na here. For me, it is probably a no bet. Let's do this one. And I want to open up my range a little bit again. Let's go since the start of 2021. I like that. Zalatoris and Hideki Matsuyama. So Will Zalatoris and Hideki. You know, in my eyes, or in my brain, I feel like Hideki was only good once at the Masters, and he was kind of okay everywhere else. I still have Hideki winning this 51% of the time, which makes him about minus 105. Caesars has him at minus 125 to Zalatoris is plus 100. Again, probably not far enough away for a bet. Let me see if I can find one that might be a little bit bigger. This one, I just can't even believe this is one. Sepp Straka versus Hudson Swafford. I don't even know what I expect here. Let's just see what happens. Straka wins 53% of the time. Look how volatile both of these guys are. It's all over the place. Okay, so that's a no bet. We're gonna find a bet here. Let me find one. Okay, here's I think the best one because it's Charlie Hoffman over Harold Varner III. So Caesars has Varner, has them both, at minus 110. I have Hoffman winning this 65% of the time, minus 188. Now, the only thing that you'll see is the tiniest bit of convergence over the last 2 weeks. Varner had two, and I shouldn't say 2 weeks, two starts, right? Because this was this was in the playoffs last year. So Varner had two good events to end it. Hoffman had kind of one or two weaker events to end it. So you see there's a little bit of a convergence, but outside of that, for the entirety of the year, Charlie Hoffman was essentially better than Harold Varner III was. So I have been winning this 65% of the time. Again, in real world odds, it's a little bit better than a coin flip. In betting odds, that's a pretty significant favorite, minus 188 when he's minus 110. So this is probably the bet, Hoffman over HV3. And then we can talk one and done really, really quickly. Again, there is not going to be a run good one and done this season. Everything has been paid out. So all of that has been initiated through LeagueSafe. I know the money has hit all the accounts. So thank you all for playing. Just without the proper software, it just became a huge headache, a huge hassle. My wife and I intentionally did not want to take a cut of the funds. We did not, but it doesn't make sense to allocate. It ended up being a lot more time and energy than I originally started. If I do end up finding or building software to work with a one and done, that might come back, but I will let you know about that. But if you are in a one and done and it starts this week, I believe Kevin Na is your choice. Not only do I believe he is a good fit for this week, but you're really not saving him for anywhere. The argument, I guess, could be that you could save him for the Shriners here in Las Vegas, which is where he is from, and he's historically had good success at, but you might get Patrick Cantlay there. You might get just a little bit of a better field, maybe. We shall see, and that's a real birdie fest. It's kind of hard to win. Not that this isn't, but 18, 19, 20 under par is probably going to win this event. So I think Kevin Na is probably the answer for you. Outside of Na, I would want to save Rahm, obviously. I would want to save Webb. I'd probably want to save Hideki. I wouldn't mind you rolling out Cameron Tringale. Again, a golfer who is in the top 6 of the odds this week and unlikely to be in the top 6 of the betting odds many weeks of the year, right? And you're not saving him for anywhere. The argument for Tringale is that the couple of weeks that he had off is going to allow him to find the driver. If that's the case, I think this is a really good spot for him. He was, believe it or not, about a 0 driver last year. And you would not know that from his last 8 or 9 events where he was absolutely horrendous. He just lost it. The argument is, with a couple of weeks off, a guy who is generally better in one area is going to get back to his baseline. So that would be the sell for Cameron Tringale. The only other option that I think you should probably consider would be someone like Sebastian Munoz, who, again, you're not playing him anywhere else. You're not saving him anywhere. He can get hot at times. He's actually played probably better than you think he has. His last handful of events, T4 at the John Deere. He missed the cut at the Open Championship. That's fine. 4th at the Olympics, and then 3 top 30s at the Wyndham, the Northern Trust, and the BMW Championship. That's when events get really, really tough. He's gained strokes tee to green in 8 consecutive measured events. Those would be the 3 guys that I would really narrow it down to if indeed you are playing in a one and done situation for this week. Okay, join me for the live chats this week. They'll all be on the Rick Run Good YouTube channel. Plenty more content to come, and we are off and running on a new season, so I'm absolutely stoked about it. Tweet me at Rick Run Good or leave a comment below. Best of luck, and I'll talk to you guys soon.